Picture this, a single document with the power to split the world in half, one signature that sealed the fate of millions and permanently redrew the global map. On May 4th, 1493, Pope Alexander VI took his quill and with a few strokes of ink altered the course of world history forever. In the chambers of the Vatican, far from the lands and peoples it would affect, a decision was made that would reshape continents and determine the destiny of civilizations yet unknown to European eyes. The papal bull Inter Caetera stands as one of history's most consequential documents, a testament to the extraordinary power wielded by the Catholic Church in the 15th century. What would you do if you discovered that your lands, your home, and even your freedom had been negotiated in an agreement made thousands of miles away without your knowledge or consent? This was the reality for countless indigenous peoples across the Americas, whose entire existence was suddenly subject to a decree made in a distant land, by men they had never met, in a language they had never heard. This papal decree would become the foundation for centuries of colonization, cultural transformation, and geopolitical rivalry. It would determine which European languages would be spoken where, which religions would be imposed, and which colonial powers would shape the destinies of vast territories. With a single document, Pope Alexander VI effectively divided the non-European world between two Catholic kingdoms, Spain and Portugal, creating ripples that would affect human history for centuries to come. The audacity of this act is almost incomprehensible to modern minds. One man, claiming divine authority, granted two European nations the right to claim and colonize lands thousands of miles away, lands that were already home to sophisticated civilizations and millions of people. This wasn't just a political decision, it was a moment that would transform the human story on a global scale. Get ready to uncover one of history's most controversial documents. This is the story of how a single piece of parchment changed the fate of continents, reshaped the world's map, and continues to influence global politics and culture even today. Join us as we delve into this crucial moment that shaped our modern world and discover how decisions made in the corridors of power can echo through the centuries, affecting lives for generations to come. Ring the bell now and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles to uncover this pivotal moment that shaped the modern world. At the heart of this extraordinary tale stands Rodrigo Borgia, who would become Pope Alexander VI, one of history's most controversial pontiffs. Born in 1431 in Valencia, Spain, as Rodrigo de Borja y Borja, he emerged as a masterful politician whose reign would be marked by nepotism, intrigue, and unprecedented political maneuvering. His Spanish origins would later prove crucial in shaping his decisions regarding the division of the New World. Alexander VI was renowned for his shrewd diplomatic skills and his ability to navigate the complex web of Vatican politics. Despite his reputation for corruption and moral laxity, even his critics acknowledged his exceptional intelligence and political acumen. His position as Pope placed him at the center of a political maelstrom as Europe's powers vied for influence and territory in the wake of Columbus's momentous discovery. On one side of this historic drama stood the Catholic monarchs of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella. Their marriage had united the kingdoms of Aragon and Castile, creating a powerful new Spanish state. Fresh from their triumph over the Moors in Granada and flush with the success of Columbus's voyage, they sought papal legitimacy for their territorial ambitions in the New World. Ferdinand, known for his diplomatic cunning, and Isabella, celebrated for her religious devotion and political determination, formed a formidable partnership that would reshape the Iberian Peninsula and beyond. On the other side was King John II of Portugal, known as the Perfect Prince, a title earned through his masterful strengthening of royal power and his nation's maritime achievements. Under his reign, Portugal had become Europe's leading naval power, pioneering the African route to India and establishing trading posts along Africa's coast. John II was determined to protect Portugal's maritime interests and the investments made during decades of exploration and technological development. The tension between these powerful figures was heightened by their personal connections. The Catholic monarchs had family ties to the Borgias, while John II of Portugal maintained his own network of influence in Rome. Each ruler understood the astronomical stakes involved in the papal decision regarding the New World's division. Behind these main players moved a cast of influential advisors, ambassadors, and naval experts. Christopher Columbus himself played a crucial role, his reports of the lands he had discovered fueling Spanish ambitions and Portuguese concerns. The Spanish ambassador to Rome, Bernardino López de Carvajal, worked tirelessly to secure papal support for Spanish claims, while Portuguese diplomats fought to protect their nation's interests. This complex web of relationships, ambitions, and competing interests would ultimately shape the document that divided the world. The personal backgrounds, motivations, and interactions of these historical figures created a perfect storm of political intrigue that would result in one of history's most consequential diplomatic agreements. Their decisions would echo through centuries, affecting the lives of millions and drawing lines on the map that some nations still recognize today. Transport yourself to Rome in 1493, a city pulsating with life at the crossroads of medieval tradition and Renaissance innovation. The Eternal City stands as a living testament to both ancient glory and modern ambition, where the ruins of the Roman Empire share space with the magnificent new constructions of ambitious Renaissance popes. The Vatican, under Alexander VI's rule, has become the epicenter of world power. Its marble corridors echo with the footsteps of ambassadors from every European court, their silk robes rustling as they hurry between secretive meetings. Here, in rooms adorned with freshly painted frescoes, deals are struck that will shape the destiny of distant lands. The air is thick with intrigue as rival diplomats exchange carefully coded messages and seek audiences with influential cardinals. In the city's narrow streets, merchants from across Europe and the Mediterranean haggle in a babel of languages: Italian, Spanish, Greek, Arabic, and countless others. The sound of church bells mingles with the calls of street vendors and the chatter of humanist scholars debating in Latin outside the newly established academies. Rome's markets overflow with exotic goods, spices from the east, fine textiles, precious stones, and now increasingly curious objects and tales from across the Atlantic. Meanwhile, in the bustling ports of Lisbon and Seville, a maritime revolution is underway. The harbors teem with activity as carpenters and shipwrights work tirelessly on the construction and maintenance of caravels. These sleek vessels, with their distinctive triangular sails, represent the cutting edge of naval technology. Sailors and merchants crowd the docks, their conversations filled with tales of new lands and untold riches waiting to be discovered. The air in these port cities carries the sharp tang of salt mixed with the exotic aromas of cinnamon, pepper, and other spices from distant lands. Maps are constantly being updated as explorers return with news of previously unknown coastlines and islands. In the shipyards, the sound of hammers and saws mingles with the shouts of sailors and the creaking of rope and timber as vessels are prepared for increasingly ambitious voyages. This is a world on the cusp of transformation. The old medieval order is giving way to something new and unprecedented. In Rome, Lisbon, and Seville, there is a palpable sense of anticipation. A feeling that humanity stands on the threshold of discoveries that will reshape understanding of the world itself. The air is charged with the electricity of possibility as kings, popes, and merchants position themselves to claim their share of whatever wonders the next horizon might reveal. In the Vatican's opulent chambers, as Alexander VI contemplates the division of these unknown lands, the weight of the moment is palpable. His decision will not just draw lines on maps. It will determine the fate of kingdoms, cultures, and countless souls yet unknown to European eyes. The world holds its breath, awaiting the stroke of a pen that will unleash forces of change that continue to shape our world today. The story of the Inter Caetera begins with a moment of crisis that would reshape the world map. In March 1493, when Christopher Columbus's caravel, the Niña, sailed into the port of Palos, Spain, it carried news that would send shockwaves through the Spanish court. Columbus's dramatic return from his first voyage, with tales of lands beyond imagination and a handful of indigenous people as living proof, sparked both excitement and immediate anxiety among the Catholic monarchs. The Spanish crown faced a pressing dilemma. While Columbus's discovery promised unprecedented wealth and power, there was a serious legal obstacle. Portugal could claim these new lands under previous treaties, particularly the Treaty of Alcácer-Toledo of 1479. This agreement had granted Portugal exclusive rights to all lands south of the Canary Islands. The Spanish monarchs realized they needed to act swiftly and decisively to secure their claims to Columbus's discoveries. The solution emerged through a masterful exercise in Renaissance diplomacy. Ferdinand and Isabella turned to Pope Alexander VI, leveraging their influence with the Spanish-born pontiff. The timing was crucial. They needed to establish their legal right to the new territories before Portugal could mount a serious challenge. The Catholic monarchs dispatched urgent messages to their ambassadors in Rome, instructing them to secure papal support at any cost. What followed was a remarkable series of papal bulls, each carefully crafted to strengthen Spain's position. The first bull, issued on May 3, 1493, granted Spain exclusive rights to all lands discovered by Columbus. However, this wasn't enough. The very next day, Alexander VI issued the more comprehensive Inter Caetera, which would become the cornerstone of Spain's legal claim to the Americas. The Inter Caetera established a meridian line running 100 leagues west of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands. All lands discovered west of this line would belong to Spain, provided they weren't already under Christian rule. This remarkable document effectively divided the non-European world between two Catholic powers, an act of breathtaking scope and audacity. The diplomatic maneuvering didn't end there. A third bull, the Dudum Siquidem, issued in September 1493, further reinforced Spanish rights, even granting them permission to sail east of the line if they reached non-Christian lands from a westward route. This series of papal edicts represented a diplomatic tour de force, transforming Spain's tenuous claims into divine mandate. Portugal, however, wouldn't accept this situation without protest. King John II, known for his political acumen, immediately challenged the Pope's division. He argued that the line was too close to African territories Portugal had already claimed and explored. This resistance would eventually lead to direct negotiations between Spain and Portugal, culminating in the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494, which moved the line 370 leagues west of the Cape Verde Islands. The issuance of the Inter Caetera and its companion bulls demonstrates the extraordinary power of papal authority in the 15th century. With a stroke of his pen, Alexander VI had not only legitimized Spain's colonial ambitions, but also established a framework for European expansion that would shape global politics for centuries to come. This complex diplomatic dance between Spain, Portugal, and the papacy would have profound consequences, determining which European powers would dominate different parts of the Americas, which languages would be spoken, and which cultural and religious traditions would take root in the New World. The story of the Inter Caetera remains a testament to how decisions made in distant chambers can reshape the destiny of entire continents and peoples, creating legacies that continue to influence our world today. It's amazing how a diplomatic dispute changed the fate of entire continents, isn't it? Leave a comment. Do you think the Pope really had the right to divide the world? Don't forget to like and subscribe. The clear favoritism shown by Pope Alexander VI towards Spain in the Inter Caetera has long intrigued historians and sparked numerous theories about hidden motives and secret agreements. The web of intrigue surrounding this decision reveals a fascinating intersection of personal ambition, family loyalty, and political machination. Alexander VI's Spanish origins as Rodrigo Borgia certainly played a crucial role. Born in Valencia and nephew to Pope Calixtus III, he maintained strong ties to his homeland, even after ascending to the papal throne. However, documents discovered in the Vatican secret archives suggest that his support for Spain went far beyond mere patriotic sentiment. Several pieces of diplomatic correspondence from 1493 hint at a complex network of mutual favors between the Borgia family and the Spanish crown. The Catholic monarchs had apparently helped secure beneficial marriages and political appointments for Alexander's children, particularly his infamous offspring Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia. Historical records indicate that Ferdinand and Isabella had promised to support Cesare's ambitions for a secular princedom, a promise they would later fulfill by granting him the Duchy of Valentinois through French connections. More intriguing still are references in contemporary accounts to secret meetings between Spanish ambassadors and the Pope's confidants in the weeks leading up to the bull's issuance. These meetings, held in the dead of night in various Roman palaces, suggest that the final terms of the Inter Caetera were negotiated as part of a broader package of political and personal agreements. Some historians have uncovered evidence suggesting that the Spanish crown made substantial financial contributions to the Borgia family's private treasury. Accounting ledgers from Spanish merchants in Rome show unusual patterns of money transfers coinciding with the timing of the papal bulls. While these could be legitimate diplomatic expenses, the secretive nature of the transactions has led some scholars to suspect more nefarious arrangements. Another layer of intrigue involves the Pope's notorious son, Cesare Borgia. Documents suggest that he played a key role in the negotiations, despite his young age at the time. His later career as a military commander and political leader was significantly aided by Spanish support, leading some historians to speculate that his future prospects were part of the diplomatic bargaining. The Portuguese response to the bull adds another mysterious element. While King John II publicly protested the decision, some evidence suggests he may have received secret compensations for his acquiescence. Cryptic diplomatic messages between Lisbon and Rome hint at other agreements made in parallel with the more famous Treaty of Tordesillas. Perhaps most intriguing are the gaps in the official record. Several key documents from this period appear to have been deliberately removed from Vatican archives, while others show signs of careful editing. These missing pieces have led to speculation about what other deals might have been struck behind closed doors. Some historians have proposed more radical theories, suggesting that Alexander VI may have received intelligence about Portuguese exploration plans that made him favor Spanish claims. Others point to evidence that the Pope might have been privy to secret Spanish reports about the true nature and extent of Columbus's discoveries, information that could have influenced his decision-making. The role of the Borgia family's extensive intelligence network cannot be overlooked. Alexander VI maintained one of Renaissance Europe's most effective spy systems, with informants in every major European court. Reports from these agents likely influenced his understanding of the political landscape and his decision to support Spanish claims. These mysteries surrounding the Inter Caetera remind us that even the most momentous historical decisions often have hidden dimensions. The official reasons given in diplomatic documents may tell only part of the story, while the full truth lies buried in a complex web of personal relationships, secret deals, and political machinations. The Borgia Pope's decision to favor Spain in the division of the New World was likely influenced by a combination of factors: his Spanish heritage, family interests, political calculations, and possibly some still undiscovered motivations hidden in the missing documents of the Vatican archives. This complex interplay of personal and political interests continues to fascinate historians and fuel debates about one of history's most consequential diplomatic decisions. The Inter Caetera Bull of 1493 survives today as one of history's most significant diplomatic documents, with its primary copy preserved in remarkable condition at the Archive of the Indies in Seville, Spain. This archival treasure, written in medieval Latin on vellum parchment, represents a pivotal moment in world history through its physical presence and legal framework. The original document displays the distinctive papal diplomatic style of the late 15th century, featuring the elaborate calligraphy characteristic of Vatican scribes and bearing Pope Alexander VI's papal seal, or bulla, from which the term papal bull derives. The document's physical characteristics provide fascinating insights into 15th century diplomatic practices: the careful preparation of the parchment, the specific formulations of papal chancellery Latin, and the distinctive rope and lead seal that authenticated it. The bull's key provision, which would reshape the world map, is found in its central passage. The crucial text establishes the famous demarcation line, described with remarkable precision for its time. Drawing and establishing a line from the Arctic Pole, namely the North, to the Antarctic Pole, namely the South, no matter whether the mainlands and islands found and to be found are in the direction of India or toward any other quarter, the said line to be distant 100 leagues towards the west and south from any of the islands commonly known as the Azores and Cape Verde. Supporting documentation found in various European archives helps reconstruct the document's creation and implementation. The Spanish Crown's original petition to Pope Alexander VI, preserved in the Spanish National Archives, reveals the careful diplomatic language used to justify their request for papal intervention. Diplomatic correspondence between Spanish ambassadors in Rome and the Catholic monarchs, housed in the Archive of Simancas, details the complex negotiations that led to the bull's final wording. Portuguese protests and counter-proposals, documented in the Torre do Tombo archives in Lisbon, demonstrate the immediate impact and controversies surrounding the papal decision. Maps and nautical charts from the period, particularly those preserved in the Portuguese National Archives, show how cartographers struggled to implement the bull's geographical provisions in practical terms. The documentary trail also includes several companion bulls issued in the same period: Eximiae Devotionis, May 3, 1493, Inter Caetera, May 4, 1493, Dudum Siquidem, September 26, 1493. Each of these documents added layers of legal authority and clarification to the original division of territories. The sequential nature of these bulls reveals how the papal court refined and adjusted its position in response to diplomatic pressures and practical considerations. Technical analysis of the original document has yielded fascinating insights. The parchment's material composition matches other high-priority Vatican documents of the period, confirming its authenticity. Spectrographic analysis of the ink reveals the standard formula used by the papal chancery, providing another verification of its authenticity. The document's dimensions and layout follow the precise specifications required for major papal pronouncements of the era. Modern scholarly examination has also revealed interesting details about the document's creation. Microscopic analysis shows multiple corrections and adjustments in the text, indicating the careful diplomatic negotiations that shaped its final form. Comparative analysis with other papal bulls of the period confirms the hand of specific Vatican scribes, helping to reconstruct the document's creation process. The bull's practical implementation left its own documentary trail. Navigation logs and ship's journals from the period show how mariners attempted to respect the demarcation line in practice. Legal documents from colonial administrations reference the bull as the foundation for territorial claims and jurisdictional disputes. Commercial records demonstrate how the division affected trade routes and economic relationships between European powers. The physical evidence extends beyond the bull itself to include contemporary copies distributed to various European courts, some with slight variations that hint at the diplomatic processes involved. Official translations into Spanish and Portuguese, revealing how different parties interpreted key provisions, notarial records documenting the bull's reception and implementation in various contexts. This rich documentary heritage not only validates the historical importance of the Inter Caetera, but also provides invaluable insights into late 15th century diplomatic practices, legal frameworks, and the mechanisms by which European powers sought to legitimize their colonial ambitions. The survival of these materials allows modern historians to understand both the immediate context of the bull's creation and its long-lasting implications for global history. The Inter Caetera papal bull of 1493 stands as one of history's most consequential documents, with repercussions that continue to shape our world today. The immediate and long-term impacts of this papal decree were profound and far-reaching, fundamentally altering the course of global history in several critical ways. First and foremost, the bull provided the legal and moral framework that legitimized European colonization of the Americas. By granting divine authority to Spanish and Portuguese territorial claims, it established the doctrinal foundation that European powers would use to justify their colonial enterprises for centuries to come. This religious sanctioning of colonization had devastating consequences for indigenous peoples, effectively denying their sovereignty and right to self-determination in their ancestral lands. The document played a pivotal role in establishing the foundations for the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494. This subsequent agreement between Spain and Portugal, building directly on the Inter Caetera's framework, would have lasting implications for the political and cultural development of Latin America. The treaty's division of the New World into Spanish and Portuguese spheres of influence explains why Brazil today speaks Portuguese, while its neighbors speak Spanish, creating linguistic and cultural boundaries that persist into the modern era. The bull's influence on Brazil's territorial formation cannot be overstated. The imaginary line established by the Inter Caetera, later modified by the Treaty of Tordesillas, set the initial parameters for Portuguese expansion in South America. This demarcation would eventually evolve into Brazil's modern borders, though Portuguese colonizers would ultimately push far beyond the original boundaries. The bull thus inadvertently contributed to the creation of Brazil as the continent's largest Portuguese-speaking nation. Perhaps most significantly, the Inter Caetera helped establish precedents for modern international law. It represented one of the first attempts to create a globally binding legal framework for territorial claims and international relations. The concept of papal arbitration in international disputes and the idea that sovereignty could be established through discovery and occupation would influence the development of international law well into the modern era. The economic impacts were equally profound. By establishing spheres of influence for colonial exploitation, the bull shaped patterns of global trade and wealth distribution that would persist for centuries. The document effectively created monopolistic control over vast regions, determining which European powers would benefit from the Americas' vast resources and establishing economic relationships that would influence the development of global capitalism. The bull's impact on religious dynamics in the Americas was enormous. By granting Spain and Portugal the right and duty to spread Christianity, it set in motion one of history's largest religious conversions. The Catholic Church's dominant position in Latin America today is a direct result of this papal mandate, which established the framework for the systematic evangelization of indigenous peoples. In terms of cultural impact, the Inter Caetera's effects were equally far-reaching. The document inadvertently created distinct spheres of cultural influence that would develop into the diverse tapestry of Latin American societies we know today. The different colonial approaches of Spain and Portugal, operating within their respective zones, led to distinct cultural patterns that remain visible in modern Latin American nations. The document also had significant implications for global power relations. By effectively excluding other European powers from the New World, it created tensions that would lead to centuries of colonial rivalry and conflict. Nations like England, France, and the Netherlands would later challenge this papal division, leading to complex patterns of colonial competition that would reshape the Americas. The Inter Caetera's influence on indigenous peoples and their descendants continues to resonate today. Modern indigenous rights movements often point to this document as the origin of their people's systematic dispossession and marginalization. The bull's assumption of European superiority and right to rule over non-Christian peoples helped establish patterns of discrimination and inequality that indigenous communities still struggle to overcome. The legacy of this papal bull extends even into contemporary international relations and territorial disputes. Some modern land claims and border discussions in Latin America still reference the original division established by the Inter Caetera and Tordesillas, demonstrating how a 15th century document continues to influence 21st century geopolitics. The historical legacy of the Inter Caetera continues to reverberate through time, shaping our modern world in ways both obvious and subtle. This 15th century papal bull, far from being a mere historical curiosity, remains deeply embedded in the cultural, linguistic, and geopolitical fabric of our contemporary global society. The most visible legacy is found in the linguistic boundaries of Latin America. The Portuguese-speaking expanse of Brazil, surrounded by Spanish-speaking nations, stands as a living testament to the bull's impact. This linguistic division has created distinct cultural spheres that extend far beyond mere language, influencing everything from literature and music to social customs and legal traditions. The cultural identity of millions of people today is, in part, a direct result of this centuries-old papal decision. Modern territorial disputes in Latin America often trace their origins to the ambiguities and implications of the Inter Caetera. Border conflicts between various South American nations have frequently referenced the original papal division as either justification or contestation for territorial claims. The document's imprecise geographical definitions, coupled with the technical limitations of 15th century cartography, created uncertainties that continue to fuel diplomatic discussions. The bull's influence on global wealth distribution remains particularly relevant today. The early advantage given to Spain and Portugal in colonizing the Americas set in motion economic patterns that helped shape the modern global economy. The flow of resources, establishment of trade routes, and development of economic systems during the colonial period created structures of wealth and poverty that persist in many forms today. One of the most profound aspects of the bull's legacy is its impact on indigenous peoples. The document's assumption of European authority over non-Christian lands provided the ideological framework for centuries of colonization, leading to the displacement, exploitation, and cultural suppression of native populations. Today, indigenous rights movements across the Americas continue to grapple with the long-term consequences of this papal decree. The Inter Caetera's influence on international law and diplomacy remains significant. As one of the first attempts to establish a global framework for territorial claims, it helped shape principles of international law that evolved into modern concepts of sovereignty, territorial rights, and diplomatic relations. The practice of papal mediation in international disputes, though no longer relevant, set important precedents for modern international arbitration. In terms of religious impact, the bull's legacy is evident in the predominance of Catholicism in Latin America. The religious landscape of two continents was fundamentally altered by the evangelization mandate given to Spain and Portugal, creating a cultural and spiritual identity that remains strong today. Perhaps most intriguingly, we might consider the historical what-ifs surrounding the Inter Caetera. What if Pope Alexander VI had divided the world differently? What if he had included other European powers in the division? The Americas might today present a vastly different linguistic, cultural, and political landscape. Imagine a North America where French was the dominant language, or a South America divided among Dutch, English, and Spanish spheres of influence. These alternative scenarios highlight the extraordinary impact of this single papal decision. Consider the possibility of a three-way division that included England or France. Such a decision might have prevented centuries of colonial warfare and piracy. The Protestant Reformation might have played out differently in the Americas. The United States might never have emerged in its current form. Brazil might be several smaller nations rather than one vast country. The legacy of the Inter Caetera also raises important questions about historical justice and reconciliation. How do modern nations and peoples address historical wrongs that stem from centuries-old decisions? How do we balance historical realities with contemporary needs for justice and equality? Looking toward the future, the bull's legacy continues to evolve. Modern discussions about indigenous rights, territorial sovereignty, and post-colonial justice often reference this document, either directly or indirectly. Its influence can be seen in contemporary debates about resource rights, land claims, and cultural preservation. The Inter Caetera stands as a testament to how a single document can echo through centuries, shaping the lives of countless people across generations. It reminds us that historical decisions, however distant they may seem, continue to influence our modern world in profound and lasting ways. Understanding this legacy is crucial, not only for historical knowledge, but for addressing contemporary challenges and shaping a more equitable future. The story of the Inter Caetera remains a powerful reminder of how decisions made in one era can fundamentally shape the world for centuries to come. It stands as a testament to the interconnected nature of human history and the long-reaching consequences of momentous decisions. And that was the amazing story of the bull that divided the world. Don't forget to ring the bell, share with other history buffs, and subscribe to Modern Age Chronicles for more incredible historical revelations.